Okay, so welcome to another episode of Sporting Heritage in Conversation. And today we're in conversation with our very own Sporting Heritage Ambassador, 800-metre world and European medalist, inspirational speaker, commentator, pundit, and company director, Jenny Meadows. Jenny, hello.
Hello. Wow, that was a mouthful. But yeah,
Nice.
I'm a busy bee, but very honoured to be asked to do this.
Oh, brilliant. It's so good to be speaking with you again today, Jenny. And I wanted to start because obviously this is all about learning about sporting heritage, why that's really important to lots of different people. And I thought it'd be really good if we started with your own sporting heritage memories and how you feel you were inspired by that and how it inspired your career, both at the start, but then also kind of in the longer term.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody starts off in sport because they enjoy it, which is the main thing, obviously. I was very, very fortunate that I was part of a running club. So I started when I was 7 or 8. But I remember being 11 and it was the Barcelona Olympics. And there was actually 2 athletes from my club who I could actually see, at least once a week, who went to that championships. David Grinley in the 400 metres and Phyllis Smith also in the 400 metres. So to me, I just honestly, I wish I could meet that 11-year-old now. I honestly just thought, well, when I'm old enough, I'll obviously go to Olympics, so it was very attainable for me to see that. And I was just very, very, very inspired by watching the games on TV and really just wishing my life away to think, I wish I was that age and I can't wait for my moment. And of course, it doesn't go like that. It was very tough and I didn't make the games until I was much later in my career. But I just think that was so, so important for a young person to actually realise it is possible and you don't need to be a superhero to be able to, go to that Olympic Games and just to see someone on a weekly basis. If they can do it, I must be able to.
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? That you were actually able to see that and kind of put it into context with your own life of the potential to be able to achieve in that way. And do you think that that has kind of driven you to try and support other young people going forward because it was so instrumental to you?
Yeah, definitely. Most of the conversations that I have with young people are far removed from that conversation. They have watched sport on TV, never really had that accessibility to other people. So I always, I feel like quite funny saying this. People will like almost say, "Oh, hi, Jenny Meadows." And I kind of, who is this fictional person? Because you know what, last time I checked, I'm sure I'm just pretty normal and it's me. And then, I think if people haven't met somebody who has been on television, who's been successful, you do put them up on this pedestal and think they're different from you. So, I always just say to youngsters, do you get nervous before you compete? Say, oh my goodness, yeah. And I said, well, guess what? Everyone does, and then even probably the most iconic sports figure around the world, Usain Bolt, he obviously was really cool and calm in front of the camera. But again, that just really, kind of got rid of people thinking he had emotions, etc. And of course he was nervous. He had basically everything to lose. Even if he won, people just thought that's what he was supposed to do. So it was almost in a no-win situation. He either wins and it's expected or loses and everyone thinks, oh my goodness, what kind of happened? So I love the opportunity to speak to young people and just to tell them more about the times when, I don't want to say failed, but when I felt like I failed at the time. Such are the lofty aspirations when you're an athlete. I remember being completely devastated, and now I look back and think, oh my goodness, it should have been one of the best days of my life, but being completely devastated that I won 2 European silver medals at the European Indoor Championships and I didn't get a gold, which is ludicrous. Now I remove myself from that situation. It was an amazing achievement. But yeah, I love speaking to young people and just letting them know no, nerves are right, and actually it means that you care about the event and the history of the events and who's come before you, and now it's your time, and believe in yourself and take your place where you deserve it. And after you finish, there'll be another person. So just seize your opportunity while it's there. And I just love that aspect and almost wish someone would have talked to me a little bit more like that.
Oh, I mean, that's crucial, isn't it? What you're talking about in terms of sharing that experience of what it's like. And when you say, you were achieving amazing things, but because of the world you were in, it was feeling like you weren't. And to be able to pass that on to up and coming athletes, to be able to say, do you know what, enjoy enjoy what you're doing, and realize that that's so important. That's yeah, it's gold dust, isn't it, for them to be able to have that experience. And then, so in terms of the events and the sport and heritage of the games, do you feel that young people kind of, because it's so difficult, isn't it? Often as we get older, we kind of feel that more. But do you think they are already starting to recognise how important what they're doing is in that kind of wider history and heritage? Or do you think that comes as we get older and are slowly more aware about, this is worth it?
It's interesting because I think it's a little bit of both. So I've just come back from the European Junior Championships, and all those athletes who I was there supporting, they're all born between 2002 and 2004. And when I went to that European Junior Championships, I went in 1999. So first, I always say, guys, I've done this. Actually, it was before you were born. And then they all obviously laughed. At that time, I didn't have enough faith in myself. I kind of used to think, there's the French athlete or the German athlete or the Polish athlete. And I didn't actually think, hey, hang on a minute, I'm the British athlete. I would always think, maybe somebody's better than me, etc. So I kind of got to those opportunities and those games, but didn't think I was good enough to win things. So now I kind of think, it really depends on your personality. Now I look back and I say to all of the athletes, there's a lot of nerves, especially for the heats, the first round before they've maybe qualified for the semi-final or the final. And I say, look, it's worse. The heat is really, really, your nerves are there. You've not experienced it. Go out, enjoy it. When you come back, I guarantee you'll want to do it again tomorrow when you go into that final or the semi-final. And, there was 18 athletes for the endurance events who I was looking after, and all 18 said the same. Oh, Jenny, I feel so much better, etc. now. But then some of them have looked through the history books and they'll say, the championship record is such a thing from such a year, and they were British. And they'll go, they went on to do this. So some of them are really aware of it without us trying to tell them that, because it's a very careful line. You don't want to tell them too much and you don't want to get them emotional. But some of them are real, experts of the sport, and they really have looked at the statistics, and they're believing in themselves. They're like, if I want to replicate such an athlete, I know I've got to put on a really good performance here, because this will really help my development. So, it's really interesting working with those youngsters. And actually, if I could have my time again, I would love, as the saying goes, I wish I knew what I know now. That's very much the case. But, at those championships, you do see this rich heritage of people who have come through before you. And, some of, so my husband, for example, he's a team leader for Great Britain, and he's just actually started going through the heritage numbers, because we don't do it in the sport of athletics. And we've never done it before. Yeah, it's so interesting. I think the first event started back in 1983. And I think Sebastian Coe is number 58. Of people who ever represented Great Britain juniors, and I think now we're on 1,300 and something.
Oh, wow.
And he put all those names there of the 65 new Great Britain athletes, and this was their debut, and said, look guys, printed some names out. Sebastian Coe, number 58. My name was there. I think it was 800 and something. And
that's brilliant.
Yeah, they're 1,300 and something. So
they can see themselves in where they fit.
Absolutely, and you can see them do it. And obviously because of lockdown rules at the moment, we did all of that on a Zoom call, and you could actually see a few of them draw a breath, seeing these great names and themselves obviously in the history now. So I think it's very important to point out the history of the event and where they are, because it really gives them that sense of pride and maybe that sense of belief where, that 11-year-old version of myself really thought she could do well. But then as a teenager, you kind of lose your way and realize, you're a small fish in a big pond, and why should it be you that stands out from the rest? So that was a really nice moment when I saw those faces on the screen, almost, oh my goodness, there's me.
That's amazing. I mean, you're going to have to share that as well and see that, but that's brilliant, because it is kind of, it's like you're saying, sometimes it's too much information that can be a bit overwhelming, and then you're thinking, oh my goodness, what if I don't do that? But to just have that little piece of kind of, well, this is where I fit, and it's okay, and actually I've got that ability because somebody before me has done it, just to give that bit of confidence. That's crucial, isn't it? And it's that learning from the heritage and using that to...
Absolutely. And I think once he decided to do it, so it was last year in lockdown, I think he was really bored. I had lots of jobs in the house he could have done instead of that. But actually, I think it was crucial. And when he did it, I thought, oh, I can't believe that didn't exist. In some sports, people obviously get their caps and it'll have a number on it. And it's just never happened in athletics before. So, yeah, he shared that with a few people, and we definitely need to share that and get that out, because I'm sure there'll be lots of people who were retired from the sport who did amazing in the sport, or those other people who were obviously juniors but didn't transition. And, again, I'm sure it's the case of if they knew then what they know now. But it'd be great for people to understand the history and, decide where they fitted in. And I'm sure a lot of people from maybe 20 years ago, didn't really capture the data that we're able to capture now. They've not thought about it at the time, especially when you're a teenager. That might have been the best thing you ever did in your career, and you presume you're going to go on to other things, and for one reason or another, unfortunately, you don't. But I'm sure a lot of those people would love to see that information now. So, yeah, we definitely need to promote it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can imagine, just going and finding what happened to people and what progress they took and which direction their lives went through, and just piecing that all together. That would be fascinating. There'd be some amazing oral history in that. Oh, right, Jenny. Okay, that's out of the project. All good. Yeah. So I'll come back to you on that. When you're talking about the work that you do with young people and trying to support that shift in their understanding and just progression through the sport, and you do it with that kind of love of the sport at the center of it, which is brilliant, because it's not all about the achievement, it's about all of it together, which is it's why I really love listening to you and hearing what you're talking about, because you bring all of that together. And I know you're doing some work at the moment that's supporting schools and looking at the gender pay gap as well, and I just wondered if you could tell us a bit more about organisations like Totally Runnable and what you're hoping to develop there.
Again, I think you get to a certain age or, position in your life where you think you do things because you care about them. And, fortunately, I'm obviously in that position. I've never really thought about it before. I was quite embarrassed about being good at sports when I was younger. So going up in a school assembly to receive an accolade for doing well at athletics, I was really embarrassed about it, because I stood out, in front of my peers. And I think having the Olympic Games in London back in 2012 really was amazing for young people, to be sporty. I remember the photos of Jessica Ennis at the time, and she looked absolutely amazing. So for years, women didn't want muscles, but everyone wanted to look like Jessica Ennis, really fit, really healthy, and, really powerful. What an iconic image, that was to young girls. And, it was amazing. And I know, speaking to Jessica, she always said, oh, growing up, she actually thought, oh, I don't want to put muscle on because none of my friends look like that. But, come the end of her career, when she was in the prime, every single woman in the country wanted to look like Jess, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's such a great image and, such a great role model. But then I started thinking about it and thought, yeah, I wasn't really embarrassed about being good at running. And I kind of would walk up in assembly really, oh gosh, I've got to get this certificate. And Jess really helped young girls actually think, you know what, I can be professional. It's a profession. At school, I would never say, when I'm grown up, I want to be an athlete. I would say, oh, I want to be a school teacher or etc. Because I never really knew that was a job. And of course, I wanted to do as well as I could in athletics, but I think I was just really scared of vocalizing it in case I didn't make it, and probably didn't know that you could be a great sports person. That could be your job, and that could be your identity. So yeah, I teamed up with Totally Runnable. One of my friends, Emily Freeman, we actually went to the Beijing Olympic Games together, and she set a company up with another friend of hers, Natalie, who is amazing because she always says, she's a lawyer. She qualified as a lawyer, got to a point in her career and thought, oh, why am I doing this? I'm not really passionate about it. And what she was passionate about was helping girls like herself who weren't really great at sports and didn't really, but wanted to be and wanted more opportunities. She wanted to play football. And of course, we know now young girls have got lots more opportunities to play football, but she didn't have the opportunity to play football because there was just a boys' football team and, nothing like that. So now we actually go in a lot of schools. First of all, we help them identify if they've got a gender sport gap, which we've not met a school yet who hasn't, and then actually help them measure that. So it's all linked to attitudes, basically. And, a lot of girls just thinking, a typical comment that we have if we're waiting in a school reception to meet the head or, the head of PE, etc. We'll hear a lot of teachers say, oh, could some strong boys come and carry a bench for me? And could a sensible girl go and take the register back? And without the teachers realising, we're really setting these stereotypes and these expectations for girls. We're actually, why are girls not allowed to take the bench back? And why?
Absolutely
not sensible.
We're perpetuating that myth, aren't we? We're allowing it to happen.
Absolutely.
The girls are bossy, boys are confident, and words mean a lot.
They absolutely do. And I think school teachers actually don't realise until we say it, and they say, oh my goodness, I don't actually mean that, but we do just say that. And then we just do things like go to watch, look at the playground at lunchtime or at break time, and you could just see, the boys playing football, the girls just sitting, playing, and actually just by redesigning the playground and giving girls the opportunity to do activity, they actually really want to do it. So I've really enjoyed that work. And, another example is if there's an after school club and it's a sports club, maybe basketball, all the boys will put their hands up first. Yeah. And there's so many places and they've all gone. But the girls aren't confident enough to put their hands up, or they'll look around the room for reassurance of any of the girls putting their hand up. And the teachers will just say, oh, the girls don't want to play basketball. But we say, well, ask them. And then if you take them to the side, they say, well, yeah, we do, but nobody else put their hand up, or I was scared of putting my hand up, etc. So there's been some really good schools who have really embraced this, looked at it, they've kind of checked and challenged themselves, and they've put some really good measures in now. And they're flying, some of the schools now. They've really reduced the gender sport gap, and they've got lots of opportunities for girls. And it's just been really, really amazing to see the change.
Oh, I mean, so just listening to you talk then, so it takes me back to my childhood where that is exactly what happened for me. And I remember we had an amazing footballer friend, and she wasn't allowed to play because she wasn't a boy. And, we kind of like lobbied with her to say, this is outrageous. How is this acceptable? And that was like, however many years ago. But a while ago. but I see I have a daughter, and I see the things that you're talking about there absolutely happening still. And she will say about, I can't play football, but I want to. And it's really difficult. So for you to be going in and shifting that, because if it isn't happening at schools and girls aren't having that opportunity and feeling like, I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we do a workshop with the boys, which is really important. It's something that we've added, and we call it the Boys Fairness Workshop. And just to cut a long story short, we kind of give them this, made up world. And we basically say people have either got green hair or purple hair. And we say that people are only allowed to do certain things according to the colour of their hair. And they'll say, well, that's not fair. And then at the end, we kind of blow the myth and say, but this world actually exists. This is girls and boys. And you can just see the penny drop. And then they'll go, oh my goodness, that is true. Or sometimes they'll go, oh, no, but girls shouldn't do that. So would you have a sister? Yeah, but she's allowed. Well, why is she allowed? And then they go, oh. And then you always get a few boys who actually hang back and say, what do you think we should do then? And it's so endearing when they're actually starting to think about that. And so it's very, very important. But yeah, things have definitely not changed since I was at school. That's definitely what happened. That's definitely why I was embarrassed about being good at sports. And I almost tried to play it down that I do running, but I'm not that bothered. Where in reality, I was very driven about that sport. So I think there's a lot of organisations now realising this, and people are doing things, bit by bit. But it's something that I absolutely are so passionate about doing. And I've got a little baby daughter now, and the same sort of thing. I think I want her to live in a world where she doesn't have to apologise being female. Is absolutely ludicrous.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm with you like 100%. And I kind of feel we're getting there with, the things that my daughter and son, so one of each, will say as well about it, because you're right. It's just as important that everybody's understanding what's happening and why it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I think we are doing really well, because this year in Tokyo for the Olympics, it's the first time there's ever been more females than males on the team. Wow. So I actually thought, oh, this is good. This is great for young girls sat there watching the Olympics from home, and they will actually see a lot of role models, and then they will. Now they're planting the history for the next generation to come through. So this is quite an iconic moment, I think, for Team GB going forward.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I wanted to ask you about the Olympics. So, and I mean, the fact that you're saying that, and that there are more girls going, it is going to make a difference. It is going to be something that you can see and think, okay, that's possible for me. And so I was going to say, so the Olympic and Paralympic Games are finally going to happen. And when we're recording this, are on the cusp of that about to take place. So yeah, how do you think that, I mean, they're going to be quite different, aren't they? But how do you feel about them going ahead? And what do you think we're still going to learn from the games taking place?
Yeah, I think it's really important that they are going ahead. I think everyone has been so careful for such a long time. And my husband's actually gone out to the games because he coaches an athlete there. And honestly, he has had to have so many COVID tests. It is ridiculous. So many days leading up to it. I think 14 days of lateral flows, and then tests on 2 weeks before, 10 days before, 96 hours before, 72, 24. He arrived in Japan just a couple of days ago and had to have a fit to fly before he left. Then he had to have one in the airport. Then Team GB are doing a lot. So I think if every country are doing what we do, and I think a lot of it is from the IOC. So, obviously some positive tests are going to happen, because it always happens. But I actually think if people keep in their bubbles, it could actually be one of the safest places to be, because they don't want any bad headlines. But I just think it's so and so important for the athletes themselves, for fans of the sport, coaches, officials. I think it has to obviously happen to actually get the competition opportunity. But I feel it's in a sensible way. I feel for a lot of athletes whose debut it is, and I only got to go to one Olympic Games. I got to go to 6 World Championships, but the way the Olympics goes every 4 years, there's some unfortunate people who just miss out for one reason or another, and, for multiple reasons over their kind of careers. I do feel sorry for them, because I just don't think it's going to be the Games experience that I had. I don't think you're really going to get those tingling feelings up your arms and the passion of the crowd, etc. But at the same time, I do really think the games should go ahead, when you strip it all back from all the razzmatazz, when you actually look at the basic thing, I think it actually is important that world sport continues, but in a really safe and secure, environment.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. When you listen to the things that your husband's going through, I mean, when we look back at that and look at these games in context, I mean, it's going to feel like, well, hopefully, it's going to feel like that was such a different world. And I mean, obviously, I'm interested in terms of the competition, but I'm really interested as well in terms of the heritage and the different way that we do things based on what's going on in the world, because sport is part of that context. But you're right. If you look at why the Olympic Games happened and why the Paralympics happened and those kind of core values, they'll be there throughout the games anyway, and it will be different. But you hope that those athletes will still learn and experience, and the wider public will still watch anyway.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually think the core values that it originated with, I think because the razzmatazz has been moved, I actually think they might be more visible than ever.
Yeah,
because I think
definitely.
They just want that competition element. They want that challenge.
Yeah.
And I think there will be a lot of respect, hopefully, for all the officials and the Japanese public who have, hosted this event, who's made it possible. I think sometimes athletes can definitely just get quite short-sighted and just think about themselves. But this is the enormity this has taken for this to happen. And I just think more fans will watch this year than ever, just because they just want some entertainment. They want to see how it's going to work out. And I just think people are longing to watch live sport at the very, very best.
Oh, definitely. And just to be able to experience that, things have changed so much, but to have that little bit of glimpse of normality and be able to see that, we're all really craving for that, aren't we? To be able to do that, and on such a grand scale. Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I think it's going to be very different, but will probably tell us a lot more about why we do those competitions anyway. Yeah. And that you hope that will go into the next time. I mean, it's been, an extra year might not seem like a lot, but in an athlete's career, it's a long time, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I'm sure there's a lot of people in a multitude of sports who have had to hang on for that extra year because they were going to retire. And, it doesn't sound long, 12 months, but believe you me, when your body starts getting older and aching and things like that,
to
actually put yourself through the physical and mental, capacity that you have to bring to, reach those lofty heights. It's very, very difficult. But at the same time, I think some youngsters who wouldn't have made the games if it was a year ago, is giving them an extra year and, a new opportunity. And that's life, unfortunately, isn't it? The younger people will always prosper as those people at the end of the, I remember one of my first championships as a youngster, and the speaker, and I actually can't remember who the speaker was, but something really struck a chord to me, and I actually felt really emotional. The speaker said, young champions will emerge and defeat their former idols. And I thought, wow, the kind of hairs on my arm still, stick up. And that is what life is about. There's a couple of athletes I've raced against when they were towards the end of their career, and I've watched them on television and I've got to race them, and I have beat them as I was getting better, and unfortunately they were going backwards. But yeah, just thinking about those words, young champions will emerge to defeat their former idols and then move on in their career. That's just what sport is about.
It's kind of life, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And sport, I think about my daughter now. I think, do I want her to do sport or not? Because, it's very tough and there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to do to reach the top. But I think, if I won't push her, but I'll encourage her to be fit and healthy. But if she does sport, at the end of the day, it gives you so many skills, life skills, resilience. It helps you, really cope with a lot of things that go on in life. And I know because of those skills, I've coped with some difficult times in my life. And actually, sport has got a lot to offer for people, whether they reach their ambitions or not. So, I think it is stripping it back, remembering when I was 7 or 8 why you decide to do sport, and you do it because you enjoy it, you want to see how good you can be, and that is what the Olympic Games ultimately is about. So yeah, let's just hope that all those people taking part can just do themselves justice, enjoy it, and hopefully as fans we can just really enjoy it. But I do think it will be one of those Olympics that we look back at in years to come. 2020 was in 2021, okay. And I'll be having to explain to my daughter, or she'll be asking me in maybe 10 years time, what happened?
Yeah, what went on there?
Yeah.
Oh, Jenny, it's been amazing chatting through all of those things, and I can't wait for the Olympics or the Paralympics. I'm ready for those as well. So thank you so much for your time, and as always, it has been a pleasure chatting with you. And just massive good luck with your projects in the future. And I'm definitely coming back to find out more about what your husband's been doing and Amazing. What you're doing in schools. And yeah, good Amazing. Stuff. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.